So the cars make their way around to the grid for our first race of the day here at Castle Combe for the Mazda MX-5 SuperCup. 29 of them, another magnificent entry from the championship at the circuit where it all started 2 years ago with a grand total of 7 cars entered into the first ever race. How things have moved on over the past 2 seasons. Pole position is Alan Henderson, looking to get that championship lead back away from JJ Clements after he lost it at Rockingham. Alongside him, Anthony Neild, who is a test driver and mechanic with Paul Sheard Racing. Liam Murphy and Simon Goddard row 2. Paul Sheard himself makes a return to Mazda MX-5 Racing on the 3rd row. JJ Clements, championship leader, down on row 7. Johnny Greensmith, row 8, another one to watch as he continues to get to grips with the Mark III machinery. Whilst Jack Harding on row 9 is still struggling with that damaged steering rack that kept him out of contention at Rockingham last time out. So the back of the grid is more or less formed up. We're about to go racing over 20 minutes here at Castle Combe with Henderson and Neild on the front row of the grid. And Liam Murphy I'm interested to watch for in this one, lining up 3rd place, has not had the start to the season he might have hoped for. So we wait for the lights to change and we see who gets the run up towards Folly, that very, very quick right-hander at the start of the lap. There are the lights, they go out now and we're racing at Castle Combe. Pretty even start from both front row men, but it looks as though Alan Henderson does take the lead. Anthony Neild tries to slot into 2nd place, but it's a big, big squeeze as they head towards turn 1. Simon Traves with a great launch from the 3rd row, and he was going for 2nd place as they went through the right-hander. Up to the top of the hill now, over Avon Rise and into the tricky right-hander at Quarry. Looks as though Neild is 2nd. That's Goddard going around the outside window. James Blake Baldwin's in there, and Adam Brindle as well, who's had a good start. They squeeze their way through Quarry. There's JJ Clements, you can see in the middle of the pack, trying to fight through after a poor qualifying. On board with Will Chappell, down the farm straight into the S's, bit of a lock-up, bit of a tag in the rear, and he does a great job of holding on to the car, does Will, as they head through the right, left, right flick, and back onto the appropriately named hammer down section of the circuit. There goes Dan Irving with Liam Murphy, who's had not the best of starts and has plummeted down the order. So he will have work to do. On board with Liam then, up towards the right-hander at Tower. This is a very good overtaking opportunity. The car in front, Dan Irving, gets a little bit of a moment. Liam takes a big, big bite of the curb on the inside and hangs on to the car for now. Henderson then leading the way. 2nd place is Anthony Neild as they go through Bobbies and up towards the final corner, Camp Corner, and back onto the pit straight. At the end of lap 1, Simon Goddard is 3rd, Blake Baldwin 4th, 5th place is Paul Sheard, making a return to the Mazda MX-5 SuperCup this weekend. And you've got Simon Traves in there in 6th place as well. He's had a storming weekend here so far in Castle Combe. Across the line they go, up towards the right-hander at Quarry for the 2nd time. There's Will Chappell trying to make a move on Adam Brindle. Goes to the left-hand side at Avon Rise, which puts him theoretically on the wrong side of the road into Quarry. He's very late on the brakes. Adam Brindle slithers his way back through, then runs wide. And just in front of them, speaking of running wide, JJ Clements gets a couple of wheels out onto the dirt as well. That'll lose him traction on the run up towards the S's. So Henderson leading the way, but at the moment, much as we saw in the early part of race 2 at Rockingham last time out, is unable to pull away. That is Paul Sheard, with Simon Traves doing everything he can to get past the man who runs the majority of the cars, so it seems, in the Mazda MX-5 SuperCup. Paul Sheard Racing is a huge outfit when it comes to any form of Mazda MX-5 racing. It's great to see Paul back in the car this weekend. Through the right-left at Bobbies on this freshly resurfaced Castle Combe circuit for 2015. The track has a little bit more grip. Not that JJ Clements would be thinking that, because he's just slithered off the road again, with Adam Brindle now getting alongside him in the background. 4 for the lead then as they turn into Camp Corner for the 2nd time of the race. And no one, as of yet, able to break away. And you can see Alan Henderson weaving from side to side to try and break the toe. The cars behind are finding that on this high-speed Castle Combe circuit, you really, really notice the slipstream effect. You've got to try and stay right in the wheel tracks of the car in front to get a bit of a straight-line speed advantage. Up towards Quarry, Blake Baldwin has a bit of a look at the inside into the right-hander, but Anthony Neild holds his ground. Oh, and that's a very, very scary moment for Ben Constanduris. Ben, who is guesting in the championship as well this weekend in a Blendini Motorsport car. I think he was trying to avoid someone else. Yes, up at the top of the hill, look, that is Richard Wicklund in the 76 car, who was also involved in that. So the two of them, that was at the first corner, Folly. That's a very quick place to go off. Leaders then continue on their way down towards Tower. Henderson still leading, Neild in 2nd, then it's Goddard and Blake Baldwin fighting for third. That is Dan Irving, and that is the safety car. Dan Irving has also gone off at Folly. I wonder if that was something to do with the Constant Duras and Richard Whitsun incident. But either way, Dan Irving's car is now stalled in the middle of the track. He has vacated the car, but the car being in a dangerous position means the safety car is needed, and so the field, as if they could get any more bunched up, will now get even closer together before we go racing once more. So Alan Henderson then has held on to the lead in what has been a frantic opening few minutes of racing. Anthony Neal, though, has not let him escape. Goddard and Blake Baldwin look racy as well, so I think this is shaping up to be a very dramatic race. On board with Liam Murphy, he goes past the scene of the crime. You see a little bit of damage to the front left corner of Dan Irving's car there. And this is a replay. Now I think Irving's already spun, and Ben Constantinos lost it and hit the wall trying to avoid him. Then as he comes back across the track, Richard Whitsun swerved to the left to avoid him, and he too loses control, but both of them miraculously are able to continue on their way. They're very, very sturdy things, these Mazda MX-5s. You get have a few pretty substantial bits of contact and still continue on your way. There is Paul Sheard, who has done a bit of racing this year in a Mark III Mazda MX-5. This is his first time in the Mazda MX-5 SuperCup, as 5 of the hard-working British marshals here at Castle Combe today are busy moving Dan Irving's car out of the way up at the right-hander at Folly. Quick look at Gary Townsend there in the 223 car running in the midfield, but with the safety car out, the racing is neutralised for the time being. But when we get going, I think we're going to see the action at the front of the field just as fierce as it was before this safety car interlude. So the safety car is now heading into the pit lane. Alan Henderson weaving backwards and forwards, and now he goes, but Anthony Neal is able to go with him, as indeed is everybody else. So a decent restart there for Henderson, but not able to extend his margin over the chasing pack. And we are racing once more here with 12 minutes and change left on the clock. Having said that, Henderson does just break away slightly on the run up towards Folly, but with the slipstream effect around here, I'd imagine it won't be too long before the likes of Anthony Neal and Simon Goddard get back to him. Goddard's attacking for second place though. That's the outside line into the right-hander at Quarry. James Blake Baldwin trying to buy into it as well. Oh, and there's a bit of screeching of tyres and a bit of squeezing, but they all managed to get themselves back in line on the run up towards the S's. Goddard again has a peek to the inside for second place, but also partially trying to defend from James Blake Baldwin, who's having a strong showing here at Castle Combe after various mechanical dramas have kept him out of the thick of the action in the first two meetings. There's Will Chappell in the number 4 Concord Motorsports machine, just in behind Adam Brindle. As back up front, this fight for second, they're really starting to trip over each other a bit now, allowing Alan Henderson to escape. And we've seen already on a couple of occasions this year, if you let Henderson get clean air and you let him just concentrate on running his own racing lines, he has the potential to stretch the margin at the front of the field. Out over the curbs and back down towards Camp Corner they go, and you can see that Anthony Neal is really a bit of a roadblock at the moment. Simon Goddard looks to the inside. Ooh, it's very difficult to overtake into Camp Corner, but he does it. Simon Goddard goes through, brilliant move, then gets a bit sideways, and speaking of sideways, Paul Sheard outdoes him at the back of the train and gets even more sideways. James Blake Baldwin up the inside line on the grass. James Blake Baldwin, how on earth did he save that? He tried to get at the inside of Anthony Neal, who squeezed him over onto the grass, and at the quickest corner on the track, James Blake Baldwin found himself with all 4 wheels off the road and somehow hangs on in 4th place. Paul Sheard and Simon Traves are sat there keeping a watching brief as well, but that was a very dramatic moment indeed for the reigning Mark I Series champion. Up towards the chicane they go at the S's, and out towards Old Paddock Bend. Oh, Ray Grimes is in the pit lane with dramas, so his race looks to be done. He's heading straight underneath the bridge and into the paddock. Meanwhile, back with the action on the track then. Simon Goddard in second. James Blake Baldwin launches up the inside of Anthony Neal for third. That was an aggressive move, but it got the job done. And James moves on to the podium, as now at the inside goes Paul Sheard. So Sheard also gets past his mechanic, Anthony Neal, and a test drive of Paul Sheard Racing as well is Anthony. But Paul finds a way through and now goes 4th. The interesting thing is that even though they've been squabbling amongst themselves in that fight for second place, Alan Henderson is not that far up the road. Up the inside in the number 55 car, goes George Lyne. He's trying to attack Will Chappell. Adam Brindle in that group, as too is Liam Murphy, and I think that's Johnny Greensmith. So there's a few potential front runners mired down towards the back end of the top 10. There are Jack Harding And JJ Clements, who remember is the championship leader coming into this weekend. He's having a bit of a lacklustre performance so far, having never driven here at Castle Combe, so he's learning on the go, is JJ. George Lyon gets up the inside of Will Chappell now, heading towards the S's. The inside line should prevail. But Will may decide to try and fight out around the outside. He does. They make a little bit of contact. Will Chappell gets all out of shape over the curbs. Great car control, but Liam Murphy goes through as well. So, and Adam Brindle as well. Adam Brindle also goes around the outside of Will Chappell. Jack Harding, the next one in line to try and find a way past the green number 4 car as they head up towards the right-hander at Tower. Johnny Greensmith in the mix. JJ Clements at the back of this pack needs to try and make progress. They all stay single file for the time being. In towards Bobby's. JJ Clements has a look at the inside of Johnny Greensmith, but to no avail, and so he stays at the back of that group. John Monroe is heading the next group as well. John had a decent qualifying, 11th place on the grid, and he's holding station around about 11th place in the race. Greensmith looks to the inside of Jack Harding. Remember, Jack Harding is driving this weekend with a damaged steering rack that he's already had to go through the Rockingham weekend with, and they still haven't been able to get the car fixed. So he is walking wounded, but still flying and fighting for a top 10 place. Just under 8 minutes remain in the race then. Back to the fight towards the front of the field, and Paul Sheard is trying everything to find a way past James Blake Baldwin. Out in front, it is still Alan Henderson with Simon Goddard second. And they make their way through the S's and Old Paddock Bend, checking back with the Adam Brindle, Will Chappell scrap. Oh, off the road has got the number 47 car of Simon Traves. So Simon, who was tagged onto the back of the lead group, has had a moment and gone grass tracking. And in fact, I think that car may be in trouble. It was going rather slowly to the side of the road, and his race may be over. On board with Will Chappell, we're looking to the inside of Adam Brindle. And we're going through on the inside into Tower, and Jack Harding is trying to follow him through as well. Johnny Greensmith's there as well. JJ Clements, this will not work. They all try and squeeze through the chicane as one. JJ gets a little bit sideways, and there's a little bit of paint traded out in front of him, but they do just about survive. There in the number 18 car is Paul Sheard, third place at the moment as he crosses the line once more and chases after Simon Goddard in the Blendini prepared car. Blendini and Paul Sheard, two of the powerhouse teams in the Mazda MX-5 SuperCup. And Paul would very much like to get himself one step further up on the podium. And towards Quarry, Goddard with a little bit of a slip in front of him, and you couldn't get much closer than James Blake Baldwin and Anthony Neal to getting, could you? The 29 car that Anthony is in is the same car that Paul O'Neill raced at Rockingham last time out to a pair of podium finishes. So it's clearly a quick piece of kit. Ooh, and he may be able to get another position here because James Blake Baldwin looking a bit ragged out of the S's, excuse me. And up through Hammerdown, he is having to really defend that fourth position now from Anthony Neild. You can see how ragged James Blake Baldwin's getting, and Neild might have just got an overlap this time up the inside line into Bobby's, and yeah, through he goes. So fourth place now then for Anthony. But you can see that that little scrap they had has really lost them distance with the group in front. In towards Camp Corner they come. 5 minutes 40 remain in this opening race of the weekend here at Castle Combe. And Paul Sheard has now caught Simon Goddard, so let's see what he can do about finding a way through. Liam Murphy, you can see in the blue and yellow car just in the background, has made some good progress now into 7th place. As up for 2nd place, Paul Sheard is attacking Simon Goddard. He's got the inside line into Quarry. Simon will try and hang tough around the outside, but it didn't work, and so Paul Sheard moves through. Sheard then goes 2nd. Goddard down to 3rd. Ooh, back markers starting to come into play, and that was Alan Henderson trying to put a lap on one of the slower cars, and that is the number 2 of Robin Marriott. Hand out the cockpit. I don't think Alan was too pleased with that because it's lost him a lot of time to the 2 cars behind, and all of a sudden what was a pretty comfortable margin has shrunk dramatically. Well, if you give Paul Sheard a sniff of a race win, he will go for it, and he's closing that gap visually now to the race leader. Plenty of sideways action behind. This whole top 5 or 6 group is really continuing together nicely. Alan Henderson now has no margin whatsoever over Paul Sheard. And Paul is right in the wheel tracks of the AK Automotive machine, heading up towards the right-hander at Camp Corner. out of this corner, he'll be able to sit in the slipstream all the way down the pit straight through Folly, through Avon Rise, and then perhaps attack up into Quarry Corner. He has a good run out of the final turn, and you can see they're virtually as one now through the right-hander. In fact, they are almost pushing each other through the corner, up over Avon Rise. And which way does Paul Sheard go? Henderson's surely going to defend the inside, so Sheard will have to go to the outside if he's going to come through. In the end, they stay as they were, but Simon Goddard's buying back into this one in third place. It's Nield now fourth, with Blake Baldwin and George Lyne fifth. George, you saw, had a big moment not that long ago and dropped a little way back. Paul Sheard again attacks up the inside into the S's, clobbers the curb, runs out just to the edge of the track but not over it. And of course Paul is in the difficult position here of trying to attack for the race lead but also defend from Simon Goddard in third. Up towards Tower they go, and still 4 cars tied together with a very short piece of string for the race lead. For me though, Paul Sheard looks racy enough here to have a go for the race lead once more. He goes up the inside into Bobby's, but the door is slammed in his face. Out towards Camp Corner and starting to run out of time now as well, with just over 3 minutes left in the race. But this is what Mazda MX-5 racing is renowned for. We have 5 drivers going into the final couple of laps, and any one of them could take the race win. Henderson leads it, Paul Sheard second, Simon Goddard third, Anthony Nield is fourth, and James Blake Baldwin is in 5th place. And the attack will come surely from Paul Sheard up the hill. He goes early to the left-hand side and then ducks back into the slipstream. That's interesting. Now looks back to the driver's right, the inside into Quarry. He's just a little bit too far back to make that one stick. Slips a bit wide. Does that open the door maybe for Simon Goddard? No, they all stay as they were. Into the S's they go. Very bumpy circuit you can see as well, which really unsettles the cars, as do the big curbs through the chicanes which the drivers are using to try and take the shortest possible line through the corners. Through Hammerdown up towards Tower, another one of the best overtaking opportunities on the track, but I don't think anyone's quite close enough to attack this time around. Paul Sheard stays in that second place. It shows what a talented driver Paul is. He's become a very successful team owner, but it should not be forgotten that Paul was the runner-up in the championship a couple of years ago. Simon Goddard with a big moment though, loses third place, and he may lose fourth. Yes, he does. Anthony Nield goes through and takes advantage, and James Blake Baldwin goes through into 4th place and now goes for third up the inside into the final turn. Did that one work? He was quite a long way back. No, it didn't. On board with Anthony, we have a grandstand view of Simon Goddard, who was heading towards the barriers there. That was a very good save, but he loses 2 places. Blake Baldwin fights back alongside Anthony Nield now up towards the right-hander at Quarry. Anthony looks in his mirrors, looks to the right-hand side. You can see in his mirror there James Blake Baldwin had got alongside and now has gone through. So Blake Baldwin now moves onto the podium. Oh, but a switchback move there, a good switchback move at that from Anthony Nield. Gets him back up the inside into the S's. This is fantastic racing. And don't forget Simon Goddard's there trying to fight his way back onto the podium too. Race leaders make their way out of the S's through Old Paddock Bend. There is Simon Goddard in the 46 Blendini prepared car. Gets up himself up alongside James Blake Baldwin by the looks of it for 4th. But that will be the wrong side of the road into Tower. Look in the background, did he make it stick? They were still side by side. Meanwhile, the race leaders are heading through Bobby's and about to start what will be the final lap of the race. Goddard did not get past Blake Baldwin, in fact lost time, but Liam Murphy has found a way past George Lyne. So Liam Murphy is now into 6th position. But the little squabble we saw for third place has allowed Henderson and Paul Sheard to really escape out in front. Paul Sheard slides out over the grass as he starts the final lap, and has that just cost him his best chance at getting away through into the race lead. Less than 1 lap to go, and Henderson now has a much more comfortable margin than he had a few seconds ago. But he's still pushing, isn't he? Alan is known for having a very smooth driving style, but the car moving around an awful lot as he goes into the right-hander at Quarry. Paul Sheard kicking up the dust again on the exit of the corner as he tries to reel in the race leader once again. Over the curbs they go. Anthony Nield in 3rd. Got to keep an eye on that fight as well, because James Blake Baldwin would love to get himself onto the podium. James, who's had all sorts of mechanical dramas this year and managed to sneak onto the podium at Rockingham last time out, but it hasn't been the season he was hoping for, so a podium here would really go a long way to improving his confidence going into the rest of the year, and he's looking to the inside of Anthony Neild into the right-hander at Bobby's. And it's all going to be about the run out of there and up towards the final turn, Camp Corner, because this is the last lap. The checkered flag is being readied. I think Alan Henderson will hold on, but Paul Sheard is going to have one last go through the final corner, but Henderson will hold on and win round number 5 of the 2015 Mazda MX-5 SuperCup. Paul Sheard is second. Anthony Neild hangs on for third. Fourth place goes to James Blake Baldwin, and fifth, with the fastest lap, Simon Goddard. Murphy crosses the line sixth. George Lyon is seventh. And you can see how far ahead of the rest of the field that group was. Eventually, we see Will Chappell come through. Will Chappell will finish the race in 7th place. John Munro next up with a good result as well, and Adam Brindle, there's Jack Harding, and JJ Clements can only manage 12th position, and that will not be what he was hoping for coming into the weekend. But a fantastic race that was from the Mazda MX-5 SuperCup. And Alan Henderson takes his 3rd race win of the year, but that, I think, was probably the hardest. He celebrates, as does Paul Sheard, in 2nd place, and Paul will be very happy to be straight back on the pace as he makes a return into the championship this weekend. And James Blake Baldwin rounds out the podium as well with 3rd place. Confirmation of that result then: Henderson, Sheard and Neild your top 3, with James Blake Baldwin 4th and Simon Goddard in 5th place. Liam Murphy rounds out the top 6. George Lyon dropped down to 10th place in the end. Jack Harding did well to 11th place, with JJ Clements in 12th. Gary Townsend as well recovered from a slightly lowly grid position for 13th position, whilst Johnny Greensmith could only manage 19th. A few retirements as well: Julian Taylor, Ben Constanduris we saw, and Simon Traves. Ray Grimes, Dan Irving and Ian McDonald also failed to finish.
Alan likes to fly a victory, but my goodness, you had to work for that. How was that from your point of view?
Yeah, it was hard work. Up until the safety car, we were nose to tail pretty much all the way. Got a tiny little bit of a gap, and then the safety car came out, obviously everything bunched back up. Got a really good restart. Coming down at the last corner there, got a bit of a jump, and I managed to build a bit of a gap. It was about, well, I lost 2 seconds on one lap behind a slower car, caught him just like in the wrong place going into the chicane, had to go like line astern through the chicane, lost loads of time. Then when I looked up in the mirror, Paul Sheard was right on the back of us, that it was just like trying to defend for the last however many minutes it was, but it seemed like forever.
Because JJ had 1 or 2 troubles in that race. How surprised were you by the fact that he wasn't able to charge up and give you any troubles in that race?
Well, I don't know where he finished in the end. I haven't seen him yet, but I don't know. It's a tricky track to get to grips with, and it's his first time here. I'm sure in the next race he'll get back up there, I think.
Looking in your mirrors on that one, so you're hoping to make it 2 from 2 later on this afternoon?
Well, that's the plan, but I think it's going to be very hard. But Paul's starting alongside as well. He was very quick through the last part of the lap, and it's where you need to be quick because you get the slipstream down the start finishing at the first corner. So that's the aim, but I think it'll be hard work.
If anyone can do it, you can. Well done.
Cheers, thank you.
It was hectic, it really was, and it was a race of many sectors, and I got a really good start and then nowhere to go. So down into Avon Rise, I pulled out wide and lost about 4 or 5 places. Lost the momentum really, and the safety car was a blessing in disguise to me. Obviously not for the unfortunate car that locked up on pit straight, but yeah, after that got a bit of good fortune really. When Blake Baldwin dived up the inside of my teammate Anthony, it opened the door for me to sneak through at the chicane. And then the next major stage of the race was when Alan got bought by a back marker, which he caught just in the chicane. And then I think he was possibly defensive, I was probably attackive, and I think the win was on really, to be fair, but he was never going to give it me easily. Got the toe, slipstream, again down into Avon Rise, and it seems the monstrous wide airfield, but when you want one particular line for one MX-5 and Alan's in front of you, you're not going to get it. So he came over to protect his line, and we touched, and I thought, oh no, you know. And every time I tried to attack, the other 3 were coming into play. So I thought I'd just give him some daylight, let him get the pace back up, and I'd rather be boring and finish with a 2nd than a 5th. So yeah, fabulous, really good to be back, it's immense.
If you'd had 1 more lap, how did you fancy your chances at potentially snatching that from Alan?
I don't think I'd have done it. I'd have had another 10 laps, really. It was achievable, but it probably would have traded plate, and I don't really want to go and see Glenn at the clerk of the course. I'm happy with second place. I'm over the moon.
Well, it's great to see you back, and fingers crossed you can pull it off for race 2. Well done.
Thank you very much.
It was really intense, to be fair. I had a good start and then sort of messed up straight after the safety car. I think I was in the wrong gear for when Alan set off, to be honest. And then James Baldwin put me wide at the top corner, and then I just lost all momentum. And with it being so close, 3 of them come through, and it was just like that. So, but they managed to stay in the slipstream, which was all right, and then pull back up. Lap time was quite good, but not there in the end, unfortunately, not quite enough.
Of course, under a safety car it can be quite disruptive. How much did it feel to you like pushing the reset button on that race for a while?
It was all right. I was expecting to do another lap, to be honest, and he didn't. He just went for that lap. But like I say, I had third gear. I think he was in second, so I just bogged down slightly, and the revs weren't there. And then I lost out to James Wright at Quarry on the first corner, so I really missed out. But that's lack of experience, I suppose, isn't it? You live and you learn, don't you?
And what are your hopes for race 2?
It's the same again. If we can get a solid podium, me and Paul, that'd be great, really, for us. That's all we're after. I'm not really here to mess anyone's championship up, despite doing what we've just done there. But no, if we can get another podium, I'd be really pleased with that.
You've put in a great drive. You should be pleased with that. Well done.
Cheers, mate. Thanks for that.